to talk about the crisis in democracy, not just in the United States, but also around the world. What precisely about democracy has you worried?
Well, really, 5 things. And I started worrying at his inauguration, both because of what he said in his speech, which I thought was defiant, defensive, dystopian. It wasn't a speech to bring together people who had not supported him, but instead it was aimed, as I say in my book, what happened at the white nationalist gut. And then, over the course of now 2 years, nearly, since the election, we have seen him degrading the rule of law. We have seen him delegitimizing our elections. We have seen him spreading corruption, both him personally, his family business, others in his administration. We have seen him also attacking truth and facts, even reason itself, and fundamentally trying to undermine our national unity. Every month that's gone by, I've become more and more worried about how he governs and how he treats people.
Including the president's mocking of Christine Blasey Ford for her allegations, what message does that send to women? And remember, women went for President Trump in 2016. White women.
White women. All women went for me. And look, white women have been voting against Democratic presidential candidates for decades. So it's not a surprise. It's a disappointment, but it's not a surprise. But the president's been true to form. He has insulted, attacked, demeaned women throughout the campaign, really for many years leading up to the campaign, and he's continued to do that inside the White House. Well, certainly, I would love to see us return to civility, listening to one another, working out our differences. That is not the Republican Party that exists today, and that is certainly not the administration that we have in power right now. President really demeaned the confirmation process, insulted and attacked not only Dr. Ford, but women who were speaking out. And I remember what they did to me for 25 years, the falsehoods, the lies, which unfortunately people believe because the Republicans have put a lot of time, money, and effort in promoting them. That is funded by corporate interests who want a government that does its bidding. It's hard. You can be civil, but you can't overcome what they intend to do unless you win elections. And so the answer to everything is to get back to what is called regular order. And so unless we win and we say to the people of our country, look, we need to protect the rule of law. We need to protect processes that are in place in the Congress and the government to protect you, to protect what you care about. So this should go both ways, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Go get them! Get in their face! Well, they obeyed. The left always obeys. Obedience is the whole point of their program.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
And there seems to be a sort of a question amongst Democrats. Should we fight dirty and meet them or whoever on the same playing field?
So when you're dealing with an ideological party that is driven by the lust for power.
Rahm Emanuel, who used to work for your husband, who also worked for President Obama, has remembered President Clinton saying that, Democrats since the Vietnam War have been afraid of using power, have been reluctant to, to be a bit more ruthless. I mean, what is the answer?
Look, I think that Democrats have a real dilemma. We do believe in making government work. We're not interested in disabling it, cutting taxes so dramatically that it gives you an excuse to raid Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. We try to have empathy for the situations people find themselves in. That's why we support universal health care, why we wouldn't deprive people with pre-existing conditions from getting access to health care, and the list goes on. So Democrats come to this current political moment really torn, because on the one hand, we don't want to model bad behavior. We don't want to act like there are no limits to what should be done in a legislative or executive branch. But on the other hand, if we don't get smarter, and I include myself in this, and I did not know the extent to which there was Russian interference. I knew there had been some in my election. I didn't understand the pressures from the right wing, frankly, on Jim Comey that would cause him to interfere in the election to my detriment. Those were things that were almost unimaginable. Who, when setting up a presidential campaign, would say, oh, and don't forget, we have to worry about the Russians manipulating the outcome. We have to worry about the FBI director intervening into it. We have to worry about WikiLeaks, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Russian intelligence. I mean, who would have thought that those were the challenges we face? So we do have to get tougher and smarter and stronger, not cross the line into lying, but there's enough truth and facts that should be more widely known about what these Republicans stand for, whose bidding they are doing, and where Trump really comes from. And at some point, the accumulation of evidence about how Trump and his father manipulated their business, how they, in so many ways, broke at least the spirit, if not the letter, of tax laws, how he did business with the mafia, how he's indebted to the Russians. At some point, that has to matter, but it won't matter unless Democrats keep driving this message about what's really at stake.
The crack political team over at the Washington Post, our daily local newspaper, has uncovered a brand new species of fake news they think you need to know about: imaginary left-wing mobs. In a piece posted last night, the Post explained that in order to win the midterm elections, those Republicans have, quote, cast the Trump resistance movement as an angry mob. Now, cast is, of course, here a synonym for misrepresented. The Washington Post wants you to know that these mobs are not real. They're an illusion. And that may surprise you, because you may have recently seen videos of prominent Republicans being chased out of restaurants by screaming progressives. You may have read news accounts about how a Republican congressman from Louisiana was shot with a high-powered rifle by a Bernie Sanders supporter. You may have seen college campuses descend into rioting simply because conservatives showed up to talk. And just this past weekend, you may have watched transfixed as groups of hysterical young people yelled at Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill and then pounded in rage on the front doors of the Supreme Court. All of this may have given you the mistaken impression that there is a threat of disorder and lawlessness from the left building in this country. Some of it funded by a man that the Washington Post neutrally describes, and we're quoting now, as philanthropist George Soros. Well, rest easy, says the Post. In fact, all of this talk of left-wing mobs, quote, taps grievances about the nation's fast-moving cultural and demographic shifts. In other words, this is racism. And it's designed, says the Post, quote, for the benefit of white voters, particularly men. Wow. So the angry left-wing mobs you thought you had been watching on television turn out to be merely a hallucination. They're a fever dream concocted by those diabolical magicians over at Fox News. Thank heaven. You can wake up now. None of it is real. It's 1996 again. But wait, has anyone told the angry left-wing mobs about this? They seem to believe that they exist. In Portland, they're still blocking traffic and breaking things and screaming at old ladies in wheelchairs. Apparently, they don't get the Washington Post in Oregon. Watch. Don't believe your lying eyes. Now, some reports, there haven't been many reports, but some describe the protesters you just watched as Antifa. Others say they're Black Lives Matter. It doesn't matter. What you're actually looking at is the youth wing of the Democratic Party. These are their shock troops. Listen to Maxine Waters and Cory Booker call them to arms.
Go to the Hill today. Get up and please get up in the face of some Congress people.
Kids don't eat in peace. You don't eat in peace.
Abolish ICE. Abolish ICE. Abolish ICE. We believe survivors.
Sexist, racist, anti-gay.
We believe survivors. We believe survivors.
Well, thanks to incidents like the one you just saw, the ones the Washington Post assures you aren't real, didn't really happen, and you have no right to be worried about, normal people across the country, nevertheless, are becoming concerned. Now, that's racist, says the Post, because, of course, being yelled at by rich white kids and not liking it is racist. But nevertheless, Kelly Paul, wife of Senator Rand Paul, says that she's so concerned by what's happening that she keeps a loaded gun by her bed. Watch.
So many, frankly, unhinged people and unstable people out there. And when they hear someone on their side telling them, get up in their face, they take that literally. And they think that that gives them a license to be very aggressive, be harassing. It does scare me that there is going to be somebody that is really unstable that takes that message a step further. We've updated all of our security systems at home. I sleep with a loaded gun by my bed. I've always felt very safe. We used to never even lock our doors, and now that has all changed.
Well, the Washington Post might call Mrs. Paul paranoid. On the other hand, many on the left openly celebrated when her husband wound up in the hospital after being assaulted by an angry liberal.
My husband had 6 broken ribs and was violently assaulted, was seriously, seriously injured. And to have people like Cher and Bette Midler laughing on the internet and lauding his attacker, it's like, well, what kind of person are you that you think that is acceptable?
Well, that's a fair question. And the video we just showed you is real video. We didn't make it up in the basement to scare you or to win a midterm. Assessing everything you've seen over the past year, you might be tempted to conclude that just maybe there is a growing problem with left-wing mob violence. But left-wing leaders and their propagandists in the press have concluded, you'll be surprised to learn, the exact opposite. Faced with one left-wing riot after another, they have decided the problem is actually you. You're the problem, sitting at home. You're dangerous. In the New York Times this morning, Paul Krugman accused the Republican Party of harboring authoritarian impulses. Apparently, Republicans have been chasing prominent Democrats out of restaurants recently and banging on cars. Oh, wait. There's that projection thing again. Hillary Clinton is so worried, though, about how dangerous the Republican Party has become, those angry Mormon grandmothers in black bandanas you're seeing in downtown Portland, smashing windows, that she no longer considers Republicans Americans or even fully human. According to Hillary Clinton, you no longer have to be civil to Republicans. You can do whatever you want to them because they deserve it.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about. That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and/or the Senate, that's when civility can start again.
Yeah, when we win, civility can return. So there you have it, the perfect distillation. There's the most recent Democratic presidential candidate, the leader of her party by default, endorsing viciousness openly against her political opponents. And yet, according to the Washington Post, a newspaper, this is what Republican extremism looks like. And you'd have to be crazy not to see it.